is Tony Thornton. Donnie Platt, we're your co-hosts for the Mound Visit presented by Top Prospects. And one of the things that we wanted to do with this is to start a community of learners. This is one of the things that Donnie and I talk about. We talk several times, throughout the week or throughout the month. And we're always bouncing ideas off each other. And we're trying to figure out, during this time, especially with this COVID-19 and with quarantine, just trying to figure out how we can be better once we get back out and get with our players. From a coaching standpoint, Donnie, from his coaching standpoint, we like to teach, and that's one of the things that I think that we miss, but at the same time, we're able to still connect with our players. So this was going to be a platform for us to, like I said, gather people and start with people that are committed, that are willing to challenge themselves, and just want to just hear some good, different things, maybe even taking notes. So with that, I'm going to leave that to Donnie.
Yeah, Tony, thanks for having us. I'm super excited to, start this and see what we can do with it, and really see what's out there, see what other coaches are doing, see how we can help. One of the things that we always talk about is how we connect that information from that all those coaches that we are fortunate enough to know and have connections with, and pick their brains and talk to on a regular basis, and really get that to the community. It's the situation with the COVID-19 and the quarantine has been, a wild thing to deal with as we're getting ready to ramp up as baseball coaches to kick off our season and get out there. It was shut down. So it's been a learning experience for sure. And a lot of us are hurting, not being able to connect with our kids and continue that growth that we see year to year. So I'm super excited to get over the hump, quit being upset about it and make some difference now. So,
yeah, exactly. We can always focus on the negative, but if we just trying to think about what the positives are, what's happened over the last 4 weeks, I think we've kind of grown, mentally, we've kind of taken a step back, kind of taken a deep breath and said, hey, we have to deal with this. So how are we going to make ourselves somewhat better? So whenever this is all over, we can translate that out to our players or to anybody that we're talking with. So I think this can be looked at as a good thing.
Absolutely. I know it's taught me a ton as a coach. I've had to, learn, new language and communication tools. I'm a very hands-on learner and teacher, and it's been wild not being able to have that interaction, those few minutes a day to connect with each kid and figure out how I can teach them something that day. So it's at first it was kind of wait, and it would frustrating at first to get them on these Zoom calls and have 15 kids at a time trying to teach and being overwhelmed and wanting to hang it up and just be, all right, we'll pick it back up. But knowing the length of what's going to happen, any good coach is going to figure out how to make it happen and keep going. And so that's been a fun journey, learning's, a lifelong passion. So this was just another challenge to learn something new. And, every day, it's exciting to see stuff and connect with the athletes and watch them learn right along with myself in this journey. So it's been just that, a journey and learning a whole new method of coaching. So it's going to be exciting connecting with the rest of the coaching world and see what they're doing and add some more tools to the toolbox.
Yeah. So, with that said, we're definitely going to have an exciting call tonight. We got 3 good guys that, obviously personally we know these guys, but obviously they're going to bring something to the table that's going to have people taking notes, is my thought, So before we get into that, I kind of wanted to tell everybody a little bit about our social media. Okay. So we're at Top Prospects TF on IG and Twitter. So let's just blow that thing up. Let everybody know, hey, there's another community out here that is, talking to, giving you some good content, trying to give people good information. And like I said, we're trying to be a part of the solution versus anything else. Okay. So, again, blow it up at Top Prospects TF. If you got any questions or if you want any suggestions on what we should do next time, because we're going to do this again. I think we got a little series that we're going to continue to move forward with.
Thanks for coming on, guys. Three of our good friends and great brains that we like to pick off in with Chase Illig, JT Heenan, and Josh from PBR. I'll let him fix his last name for all of us. I don't even want to touch that one. So, but guys, thanks for coming on tonight. One thing we want to do is really spread as much knowledge as we can, see what everybody's up to, how this is affecting everybody, and see what we can do to help. We don't know much better people to have on for our first episode here. And tonight, we're going to talk about first how this has affected you guys, just what the facts are, what's going on in the world of baseball, from the high school to college and the professional level, as much information as you guys can give us there, and then see what we've done, adapted the coaching world, the learning world, and then see what that's done to the recruiting world. Obviously there's some big changes going on there, so we'll have some good flow tonight, some good conversation, obviously. But first, I want to hop in, right with Josh, talk a little bit about what the high school scene's looking like, what you're seeing around the state, and how that's translating to what is actually happening out there in the world with West Virginia baseball and across the country.
Well, there was actually just announced yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, that schools were going to remain closed through the end of the academic year. So I believe it was about 10 minutes after that was released, the West Virginia SSAC came out and basically shuttered the rest of the basketball tournament and all of the spring sports. So I know a lot of kids and a lot of adults are very heartbroken over this, and I feel terrible for the seniors. Pretty much they wanted to put a lot into this year, and they worked really hard, and to have that taken away from them by something they can't control is very frustrating. And just I get, it seems like, texts every day and calls every day about if I hear anything, hopefully good news regarding some other things that are going on. And unfortunately, I just don't have, any answers, just like everyone else does. I wish I had all the answers and I could kind of make this go away, but it's one of those lessons in life, as we've all, probably encountered at some point in our life. It's just something that's out of our control, and patience is so important, and everybody wants to go. But someone brought up, I saw on social media that if just if your son or your daughter were to contract this virus and were to be seriously sick from it, then all this kind of puts it all in perspective. So all I know is we're full throttle for the summer. There's some pretty big things going on, and we're hoping through the summer travel season that's going to still be a go. I have a feeling that it's going to be pushed back a little bit. I think teams are going to. I think by July, August, I think teams are going to be pushed into that August time frame. But I'm hoping, just like everyone else, that's the case. I know the good news is, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and kids are going to be ready to go and chomping at the bit. So I think from a sheer talent standpoint and readiness standpoint, from pitchers' arms to, it might take the hitters a little bit to get going, but I really think you're going to see an emphasis on the summer season if we're able to get going, and you're going to see some really impressive performances, I think, because everyone's going to be fully rested and ready to go. So it's going to be kind of pedal to the metal, I think, once the go ahead's given. And everyone I've talked to is more than excited about it. I know I am. By doing this, we got some things going on up in the Pennsylvania State games for kids in West Virginia. So between that and what we do with the Aces, it's kids can't wait. I can't wait. Coaches can't wait. We want to put all this behind us, but we also want to be safe when we do it and not, get anybody sick or anything like that. So that's kind of what I'm hearing. I did hear that Ohio is their Legion commissioners came out. They will have a season in Ohio for Legion, so that's good. I'm hoping West Virginia can salvage something there, even though they won't have a regional tournament or a World Series. But that's some slight good news that I've seen on the social media front. I don't know what else JT and you guys have heard along those lines, but anytime you seem to only see negative stuff in the news world. So anytime we can get some good news like that, it's always welcome. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the things you said earlier was we just don't know what to expect right now. All this stuff first happened and it was, all right, we'll be fine in a couple of weeks. We'll get back to it. But, now the seasons are getting canceled. And like you said, the SSAC shut it down with the spring sports. So they're done. And that's a whole new thing to plan for now. I did hear that the National Legion, the World Series was shut down. So it's good to hear that some of the states are going to keep going. I know we're trying to fight through that now. I haven't got news that Legion is canceled yet, so that's good to hear. But how's from the high school to the college perspective, we know that high school season's over now. We know that the Legion season is sort of in jeopardy. JT, Coach Heenan, when you're seeing it from the college perspective, with that news of no high school season, how are you, dependent on, what were you depending on for your recruiting class this season, and what's happened to make you change that now? So what's those facts coming in?
So our front, really the majority of our recruiting is done in the summer. We're playing and practicing throughout the spring. The only games we'd really probably go see would be, maybe a midweek on a Monday if we were lucky, or if there's a game, in Morgantown and we had practice, I could run over and watch. But we're really dependent on the summer schedule being open. So like Josh had mentioned with the Aces, we're hoping that a lot of these seasons don't get canned in the summer because that's where we go see our players. So we've been really proactive with the kids we're going after. So we've already, my head coach and, I've come up with already where we're going. So the biggest thing is if these tournaments are still open, nothing really changes for us except for like in a recruiting standpoint. It's just kind of different how we're going at it now. So like we've been, reaching out to kids every day. That's really all we can do. Obviously you can't have on-campus visits, but right now we're still the same in the summer. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
So staying connected with the recruits is obviously important during this time of the year, anytime, but especially right now with all that's going on. So as you're reaching out and staying connected with those recruits and those outside, what's going on internally with your team now? What's, how were you guys affected by all of this?
Similar to everybody else, we were a little later on the scale, being the Division II level. Like, as you know, like the Ivy Leagues some of them were in the middle of the games, it seemed like, and getting told they were done. But we were a little later, so we had like a couple practices, and then we found out that every team on our schedule, including us, weren't able to play. So we met with our team and told them, obviously, hey, we're done. At that time, we didn't know if they'd be able to come back. It was still in the works, and but something we've done is we had exit meetings, and similar like you would at the end of the season. But we're fortunate we got to do that. Some schools, I know like Potomac State, they left on spring break, and before they came back, they were so we kind of had some closure with it. We know who's coming back, and we know what seniors are able to come back financially and academically, like because they got that year of eligibility returned to them. So really how it affected us is obviously we didn't get to play a season, but it seems as though we're going to hit the reset button, come back next year with just about the same amount of kids, or same kids will come back plus our recruits.
Nice. So to clarify, touch a little bit on, I think this is a great segue into introducing Chase. You said the seniors are going to get granted another year of eligibility with losing this season, right? Was there any other NCAA sort of sanctions or lift or anything changes that you were made aware of besides that?
As of right now, from my understanding and what we were told is, all of our seniors. Obviously at our level it's a little different than like if you're on 75% scholarship at a Division I, you're obviously going to come back. But if you're a kid who's like lives across the country from your Division II private school, it's not necessarily realistic for you to come back maybe for a fifth year if you already have earned your degree. Right. So our understanding is if you're willing to come back, which we have a lot of players obviously that are, you can, and everyone regains that year of eligibility. Now that's obviously object to change. I think this is new for everybody, so we're not entirely sure. But our understanding is that if you want to come back and you were a graduate, if you would have been a senior this spring, you can come back next year.
Cool. Awesome. That's good to hear. Obviously they lost that season. That would be the obvious right thing to do. So, but there may be those seniors out there that choose to enter the draft or go on to the next level. I think with that, Chase, tell us a little bit about where you were in the process of your career, your professional career right now. And if you have any insight on those, maybe those college players that are going to choose to enter Major League Baseball, if there's any plans for them that you're aware of, and what the plans are for you now as a young player in professional baseball.
As far as me, with us, we were kind of just getting started with minor league spring training. We had a lot of guys down there in early January, but March 9th, I believe, is when it officially kicked off, and we had about a week's worth of actual spring training. And then on that Friday morning, we kind of got told by our general manager, Brian Cashman, that it was kind of Major League Baseball is putting a stop to everything for 2 weeks just to see how everything was going, which turned out to be later that weekend. Everyone got sent home. But for us, it was kind of a little bit different because we had the first two positive tests of the coronavirus throughout baseball. So we had an extra 2 weeks we had to stay in Tampa, quarantine in the hotel to make sure that we didn't spread it. We had a couple of guys get tested, but after the two initial guys, no one failed, so that was good. And then as far as for the rest of the season, we really haven't heard much other than through the month of May, we're all going to get paid our weekly salaries. So every 2 weeks we'll be getting our paychecks. So that's, I know for me and for a lot of other guys, that's awesome because right now there's really no work that can be done anywhere. So guys that would have normally give hitting lessons or worked at a clothing store or something like that in the off season, that's not a possibility right now. So that helps. Every penny that Major League, minor league baseball give us right now is definitely very helpful. So I know myself and all of us are really grateful for that.
Absolutely. I think every baseball person in softball and spring sports person in the country can feel you on that one right now. So, and obviously with all those changes and all those modifications and not knowing what's going on, a lot of training has had to be adapted. So, with that, Josh, what are you seeing in the high school world and in the recruiting world that's keeping these guys fresh, sharp? I think as coaches, we've all had to sort of step back and reevaluate. What are you seeing from your end that we're adapting to all these new things?
Man, I think I think kids are starting to realize how, I wouldn't say important. Well, I would say important how critical social media can be in this whole process. I mean, you're talking about. I mean, I've seen a lot of kids, not only from West Virginia but surrounding states. People I follow that retweet and like these videos. Of kids, hitting and fielding and throwing and pitching. Obviously schools can't go out. College coaches can't. There's no, on-campus or off-campus contact outside of emails and text messages and phone calls. So I think video it's been important, but it makes it even more important in something like this because, I talk to coaches every day that are getting emails from kids and the ones that have attached videos obviously are going to get preference over the ones that don't. So just adapting to you know, having that video and, you know, not having to do anything. I've seen, I think I sent Coach Heenan a video that I saw that one of our PBR guys passed down through the chain. You know, a kid had put together a video, and it was kind of had some funny things in it, but you know, I think the more serious you take it, obviously the video, and then anything you can get to verify the stuff. So if you have pocket radar, if you have a radar gun, you know, something along that lines, you know, saying you throw 85 miles an hour, you know, doesn't really cut it. You know, if coaches are going to take it serious, they're going to want to see the numbers. So video and verifying the stats are, you know, critical, you know, to give yourself a leg up, I think, in that process. And I know coaches really appreciate it because, you know, everyone's trying to adapt to what's going on. And, you know, this is one of the great things with modern technology is you can, you know, still continue to see kids. You know, coaches can kind of within 10 or 15 seconds of watching a kid swing a bat or run, you know, a 60 or field a ground ball or throw, they can tell within that, you know, 10 to 15 second range that if this is a guy that, you know, we want to look at, or, you know, if this kid doesn't really, his skill set doesn't really match up for what we're looking for. So. Yeah,
I think that touches on a great point too of you know, as a coach, we always want to help our players get to that next level. And I would, you know, I'm glad you touched on what, you know, I would ask as a coach who coaches middle school players, youth players, high school players, what we can do to help them connect to those coaches. Like you said, you know, we've all seen thousands and thousands of swings, and you've watched, you know, thousands a week with what you do, and you have that ability. You know, so I think getting the information to the coaches about what you're looking for, you know, and of course video is always important, but especially in this new era, I think it'll be big as coaches on how we teach and connect with our kids to build those videos and how to have those tools, you know, the pocket radars and the, you know, how to verify those facts, the hit track systems and all of that that comes along with when you can't see in person, you know, what that's like. So, and then a whole nother issue, I'm sure, is coaching and recruiting is that ability of watching the kids play. I know, especially at the Division II level, the talent, the numbers, and all those things that stick out, the glare on the baseball field are hard to come by sometimes. So, you know, from that perspective, JT, what are you seeing and adapting with your players and seeing, you know, what is it that you need to see and need to see more of sort of in these new times from coaches, from the recruiting, and from the actually coaching your players?
So on the recruiting front, things that, you know, like you guys hit the nail on the head, and Josh said it, and then you said it, was, you know, things that we look for is if you send me an email and you say that you throw 88 and there's no video with a radar gun, I'm not going to believe it. You know, I mean, also, like if you're throwing 88, why are you emailing me April 15th? You know what I mean? And of your senior year. So, video is obviously important. Another thing is, you know, being on the other side of it now is field level. I don't know if you guys are familiar with field level, but we use that to recruit. And I mean, players can make their own profiles. You can ask, like, you can request recruits, and then they can put all their information on there. So I'll get like anywhere from 5 to 50 requests a day from coaches, and there's probably 7 or 8 kids on field level that I have recruited, and some that I have signed because they've sent requests, or it's been sent to me by somebody, or, you know, maybe one of our coaches saw it and they sent it to me. And so, like you had mentioned, like Josh and yourself and all of us, like watching swings. I mean, if I see you know, Marty Davis from 643 Sports puts together highlight, you know, videos and skills videos and game footage. I mean, I can watch a 3-minute video and figure out if I want to have you on campus or recruit you, or even offer you. If you're a pitcher and you're throwing close to 90, I mean, that plays anywhere you go. So we're about it. But then the other part of it is just the relationship aspect. I know it's difficult for all of us, where we're not in close proximity with anyone, and I can't shake your hand and watch how you're running on and off the field and stuff. But, the best we can do is communicate via text and phone call. And the other thing is, if you're not returning text and phone calls now, I don't know what else you're doing. We all have, I know people are busy and there's some people are still working and there's things to be done, but that's really your best way to get recruited at this point. And as for our players, we've, since we've disbanded, we haven't been able to see them. And in the NCAA, you're not allowed to have any mandatory workouts right now. Excuse me. So that means, like, if we wanted to, you'll see a lot of teams doing like Zoom calls, and you can't make you can't make it mandatory for them to show up. Now, obviously, it's within the player's best interest to be in that meeting. But what we've done is, we reach out to a player every single day, each one of us on staff, just check up on what they're doing. As you guys know, everyone in this meeting already knows, I have a plethora of resources that every player has access to. But since it's not so each guy has a individual hitting plan that we went over in the winter. They have access to just about every video, every hitter who lived. So they have access. If they have access to throw, hit, or pitch, whatever, they have the resources to get there. So on both fronts, it's just, if you're a recruit or you're a current player of ours, it's on you to be proactive. I can just give you the resources to get there.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but the best way to say it is, it's easy to make excuses, and it's easy to say, I can't, get with my catcher, and I can't, go with my friends, and we can't go to the field and hit because they put locks on the doors. But I think I saw a video of a kid up in Pennsylvania that posted, tagged somebody that I was following yesterday. I think they have a minivan. I think the kid was working out. I think he was pushing the minivan across the parking lot, just as a workout. There's way to do things, and the guys who are resourceful and the guys that want to be successful and they want to use this time to get better and to be ready whenever the time comes where we can play. Those guys are going to stick out in the best way this summer, hopefully, or fall. And the guys who kind of sit around and they feel sorry for themselves and they don't work to get better, those guys are going to stick out like sore thumbs, because it's going to take them a while to get going. And you never know who's watching. Like Coach Heenan said, his big thing, one of the big things he looks at whenever he's watching a kid is if the kid sprints on and off the field, how he acts, body language wise, how he interacts with teammates and coaches, how he interacts with parents. Everyone can feel sorry for themselves. It's the guys who take advantage and really dedicate themselves in the weight room and getting physically stronger and better. Those guys are gonna, the cream's gonna rise to the top, and they're gonna stick out. And I can't wait to see it. Honestly, I'm itching so bad to get out to a baseball field. Those guys that really put in the time now are really gonna pay off when it comes time. So.
Absolutely.
Can I jump in there real quick, Donnie? Just to piggyback off of what Josh is saying. I know you and JT, you guys have seen a lot of kids in the state of West Virginia, and with this PBR, I want to say thank you, Josh, for really putting this out in the forefront, because having a voice within your state is great. So with that being said, we're going to have some kids watching this Zoomcast. With the PBR, even if they don't hook up with PBR, what are you hearing about the kids from West Virginia? What are one of the things that you hear from a college coach that says, Josh, these guys from West Virginia, they put good videos together, but when I see them, this is what I like or I don't like.
Well, the one of the big things that I really hear from college coaches about kids in West Virginia is it's like, they get these kids to campus, and it's like, man, a lot of these kids, they work really hard. They outwork guys that have been there. And, I think it just goes to the mantra of being from West Virginia is it's blue collar. It's lunch pail, going to work, don't feel sorry for yourselves. Now, obviously, there's players that fall in that category, but most kids that I've encountered, you know, guys that have played for the Aces, guys that really want to play at the next level, they all have a chip on their shoulder. They're mostly all under-recruited and undervalued, and that's kind of what I'm trying to change is, you know, these kids deserve a chance, just like kids from Ohio, kids from Pennsylvania, kids from Virginia, these blue blood states. You know, it's all about the voice and, you know, getting in front of the right people. You know, there's programs out there that come in and promise the world to these kids, and a lot of kids fall kind of prey to some of these organizations because, you know, they come in and promise them that they're going to get them all these offers and this and that. Well, the facts are about 95+% of kids in West Virginia are going to play college baseball in West Virginia. So, you know, going all over the place and spending thousands and thousands of dollars to go play in 9 states away, that's, you know, not really beneficial a lot of times for the normal player in West Virginia, which, you know, there's always outliers, and there's always kids that, you know, are a level above maybe most of the kids, but that doesn't really seem to come to fruition that often. So, you know, kids, some people kind of prey on these blue collar kids, and I hate to see it, but, you know, I'm going to do everything I can. I know everyone on this call is bought into helping kids any way that we can, and that's what's important is for parents and for kids to know that they have a voice and they have someone who's going to try to put them in the best position they can to succeed. And, you know, I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. I was the first to graduate, and I can tell you, going to school, and if I wouldn't have graduated, I definitely wouldn't be in the position I'm at now. I wouldn't have the day job I have right now. So it's so important to find the right fit, not only athletically but academically, because that degree you'll get is going to be far more important, you know, unless you're Chase Illig, who plays for the New York Yankees. You know, that degree is going to be so much more. It's going to pay you a lot more in the end than, and, you know, you can subsidize your costs, you know, and get a baseball scholarship and kind of hedge your costs. Then, you know, it's the less amount of money you have to pay within that 4 to 5 year span is really going to be the most important thing when it all comes down to it, because you can't play baseball forever, unfortunately. But it's a great tool to help get the things you need to get in life, and just super grateful for the experience I've had and working with people that I've, you know, worked with. JT and, you know, there's 2 guys, JT and Chase, helped me out this fall. They did a great job. You know, Tony, we're going to be, you know, working together a little bit, and Donnie helped me out as well with JT and Chase. So, you know, you guys are all kind of people that we want to surround ourselves with. You know, I get a lot of requests, it seems weekly, on people that want to help. And it's not that I don't want other people to come in and help. I want all the help I can get, but it's got to be the right help. And it's got to be people that are in it for the right reasons. So, you know, all the guys that I've had with me so far are all in it for the right reasons. You know, 3 guys on this call and Marty Davis, you know, those guys are all blue collar guys and all guys I can trust with the brand and what we're doing. So.
Yeah, it's always been a thing. I think, you know, a lot of, I think most people on this call, you know, couple 2, 3 grew up in West Virginia, if not similar places. And I know I wish that Josh, you were around when I was in high school, you know, being from Wheeling in the Northern Panhandle. You know, it was something that I always tout to our players is the access to information that they have that's just way different than what it was when even I was playing just a few years ago. And being, you know, the access to players like Chase and JT and yourself that just watched and lived this game day in and day out, and we grew up. And having somebody going to bat for West Virginia players, I know is huge. And like you said, I know everybody definitely wants to see that be as successful as possible. So that's really, really good stuff. And I know, a lot of times as a West Virginian and someone in these blue collar parts, our work ethic is something that shines through. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And one of the things that I thought of when you were talking about is that, baseball for all of us, I'm sure it has changed our lives in one way or the other. And I know for me, it was a distraction long enough for me to grow up. It stayed long enough there and kept me busy enough until I decided to try to grow up a little bit. And luckily it was still there, and I could appreciate it even more at that point. We all have those coaches and those friends that we've made through the game that, that we're missing now and we're still holding on to. So it's great to see that stuff. And as coaches, I know we talked about building a community of learning, and character is one thing you said, which is big. And as a person and as coaches, all of us are so big on character. I know in this time when we're dependent on other coaches in the recruiting process, that how important it is, with those relationships that you have with, JT, how important that is with these coaches, that when you can't see these kids play these games, what it's like to make that call to another coach, to other players, and get the word on them. And how important is that? We are still young coaches, all of us on here. But when we were first starting, we get that one player we're super excited about, and we're calling every older coach we know, every college coach, you got to get this guy, you got to get this guy. What have you seen in your growth from a player, at the highest level, to the coaching? What do you have? What have you seen with that, and how has that changed?
You're talking to me, right?
Yeah.
Well, you said playing at the highest level, so I was a little confused.
I was trying to throw you, I was trying to, come on, man, a little inside joke.
If you meant watching at the highest level, you were correct.
But what
I was there.
But basically talking about, when you get that video that we talked about, I teach a kid how to make that video, and then you make that call. What do you have to say to the young coaches? And I know I lost my train of thought, but what do you have to say to the young coaches that are trying to help the players get to college, that you make that call? How important is that conversation that we have that says, yeah, he does throw 85, you know what I mean? And then you see him on a radar and it's not, and how that affects the relationship with that coach forever. And then at the same time, if he says, yeah, he's 85 with a nice slider at 78, 79, and that's the truth, how different those paths are when you connect with those high school coaches.
Yeah. So Josh and I would talk about this a lot because, as you guys all know, I was on the other side of the fence not very long ago, where it was, we'd have players, coaches calling me about players that I'm trying to get recruited, and now it's, the opposite. So, Donnie, you had said it. A big thing is, that's your, if you're putting your name on something, or if you're putting your name on, a player does this, that, or the other, if you're putting your name on, hey, this guy, he's a leader. He's a guy that I would, have babysit my kids. He's going to do this for you. And he doesn't do that. That's even more of an issue than if he throws hard or if he swings it, in my opinion, because, I said to Chase, was like, I'm sitting here still writing notes, even though I'm on the call, but something I wrote down is, I can always coach ability. You know what I mean? You can always, I'm confident enough, and I know Josh is, and, literally everybody on here is like, I can coach you to swing it. I can coach you to, what your approach should look like and how to help your timing and your sequence and your mobility. But I can't coach you unless you have the character and the attitude to get there.
Exactly.
So that being said, when people call me and they say, well, this kid can do this, it's like, well, like Josh had touched on it. I mean, is he going to add value or take away value from our team? Because this is, like you said, it's changed all of our lives, and this is my life. This is my career. So if I'm going to invest hours upon hours developing this kid, how long is it going to take me to get him to invest as much time as I am? Now, I don't expect that. That's not guaranteed, but, I can only coach you if you're willing to be coached. And that was something, like, I was happy to do this because, like I said, being on this side of it, I've been fortunate enough to talk with people way, way smarter than me over this, this time that we've had off. like some of the best hitting coaches and just coaches in the world. And that's literally the thing they speak volumes of, is like whether it's, getting a player recruited, or it's, working with a player practice, or if it's, you're a coach and there's a coach above you, it's just the willingness to learn. So to wrap it all up, I guess I would say is if you're going to call me with a player, you just have to be honest. I mean, it doesn't, it really, if you call me and you're like, hey, I don't know if this kid can compete at your level, but he's a really, really good kid, I'm more likely to take a chance on that guy than he throws 93, but there's a 50-50 chance he's going to pass and he'll do something stupid.
Be
I mean, Josh, I'm sure you can agree with that. Donnie, I mean, Tony, I mean, Chase obviously knows we've all been on teams where that's been an issue, or we've coached with teams where that's been an issue. So I guess to wrap it up all in all is just, if you want to build a relationship with somebody, shut up and listen, is one thing I've learned. Put your ego away and be honest, and you'll learn a lot, and you'll probably earn a person's trust.
Absolutely. And I know
I agree. Those are some nuggets right there, JT. For these young guys that are out there who think that, I know Josh sees it, I see it. We've all seen it. The kids that think that they're, above the cream or right at the cream, sometimes they need a rude awakening. So, if you're going to walk the walk, you better come correct. There's no hiding once you get there. So if a coach is looking at you and you say you throw 87 or 89, you best believe you better be throwing in between 87 and 89. If not, they're just going to walk away. And the next coach that asks that coach anything about your character may not turn out in your favor. So like you said, let's be honest, because when you get there, it's going to be based on that performance when they actually put their eyes on you. So I do want to transition just a little bit because my man Chase is sitting there. And Chase, I want to ask you, I know from what I know about you is that you're a hard worker. And that's one of the reasons why I have you on this call, or wanted you to be on this call. It's not that I'm having you, but I'm glad you accepted the invitation. But being a guy from West Virginia, you work hard. I see you working hard in the off season. Can you kind of break down how your mindset is and how your daily routine is now that you are idle? Can you give everybody a little perspective on how a pro goes about their business, even though we are quarantined and times are slow right now?
I appreciate that. That's kind of something that I always pride myself on, is I want to be the hardest worker in the room. That's something I took from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. That's kind of how his motto for where he's gotten from all the hardships in the past and everything. So I really appreciate that. But as far as right now, what I've been doing is, when we were in quarantine, I kind of try to get out of the room, do what I can, whether it's, pull-ups on a tree, push-ups, run, kind of whatever I could do to try to keep my body in the best physical shape I could. I didn't really have any access to any bats or gloves or anything, so I kind of watched more video. I talked to JT quite frequently about, we send videos back and forth to each other, talk about players, kind of what they do to progress, all that stuff. So he's always a resource that I use. And then right now, I've been lucky enough to be able to be in a spot where I can lift a little bit, whether it's borrowing weights from a gym or being able to get into some primes here and there to work out. And then like you being able to get into swing whenever I can, whether it be at your facility or somewhere else. It's been a huge benefit for me to kind of maintain as much of a regular schedule as I can, and just trying to be ready. And so if I were to get the call, right now saying, hey, you need to report tomorrow, spring training is going to start back up in 2 days, and we're going to start playing games in a week, that I feel like I'd still be able to compete at as high of a level as I did at the end of spring training.
Now, is this workouts that or the workouts that you do, is that based on your own kind of formula, or has your organization that you were drafted to, the Yankees, have they given you some feedback on what they expect, or kind of a workout you should follow?
Yeah, our strength coaches put programs kind of individualized for each of us based on our tests that they do at the beginning of spring training, whether it's mobility, certain strength issues, stuff that they might see that could cause issues down the road. They'll give us certain mobility workouts and strength and endurance workouts based on our position and, stature, build, all that kind of stuff. And then on the hitting and defensive side, I have a pretty good open communication with our catching coach, our catching coordinators, our hitting coordinators, all of our hitting coaches. So, we kind of shoot video back and forth on what they feel like I need to work on, and then I'll shoot them video and just kind of ask them for what they see. JT helps me out with that a lot because, as you guys know, he's pretty knowledgeable on that side of the things. And so whatever they kind of say I need help with, I can kind of bounce it off him. Like, hey, if you see this, let me know. That way I can work on it. So I've been pretty lucky with that. I don't know if all organizations do that, but I know the Yankees, they really, really dedicate themselves in player development. And the guys they hire truly care about the players. So that's been awesome to kind of be able to experience.
Yeah. So that's some good stuff as well. And I wanted to kind of, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about technology. You're able to record yourself and send back and get some feedback, instant feedback, or maybe an hour or two, but at least you're getting feedback. So I know when I played, obviously we would have wished we had technology. And it goes back to what you were saying, Josh. These times, take your video serious. Like if you're going to put something on video, take it serious, because JT doesn't want to sit down and look at 10 videos and they're all, doing cartwheels, So for you young guys out there, listen to these guys. They're putting in real work, and they're following a regimen. So, Josh, just real quick, you're up and down the interstate, and you're looking at these high school programs, and Chase touched on it. Player development. It's a cliche. It's always used. What could you say for a high school coach that may be listening? What would you want them to prepare their kids for as far as in player development? Consistency, technology. What kind of things are you looking for?
I mean, I think the most undervalued part of high school baseball players is, and coaches throughout West Virginia, do a great job with what they're given when it comes to, they're not allowed to work with kids out of season. They get a couple weeks in the summer, but other than that, they can't, do stuff. And I'm sure it's super frustrating for those guys because, the coaches that I know and speak to, they all care about their players and they want to help them succeed. And a lot of times it's like they're handcuffed in what they can do and what they can't do. But, I think personally is just getting through failure and realizing how, in baseball as in life, the best way to prepare a kid for the college baseball, the rigors of college baseball and a college baseball season is, if the top couple players on your team that you think that, or that that it's probably going to play college baseball, coddling those guys and never getting on those guys is only doing a disservice to them, because I can guarantee you whenever they get to college, they go play for a Doug Little or they go play for a JT Heenan, they're going to mess up because everyone messes up. But just being able to utilize or being able to grow through that and realize you're not always going to do the right thing and it's okay. It's a learning process. So I think, high school coaches that really get on their better players and they demand more out of their team and their players, I think you'll see that those guys, are more set up for success at the next level because they've already, kind of went through that. And unfortunately, sometimes, kids that are good players in high school, they for whatever reason, they get to college and they really struggle because coaches are getting on them and they're not used to it. So, all good teams, I think, the upper echelon teams in West Virginia, the one thing I think you're going to see from those coaches is they're going to hold their players accountable and they're going to expect them to to perform at a certain level, and when they don't, you know, they're going to get on their guys, and that's honestly that's going to make them better players. And you know, from a parent standpoint, I know it's hard to see sometimes, you know, your baby boy getting you know, yelled at, or he messed up and the coach is getting on him. But you know, the worst thing that can happen is for parents and, you know, other coaches is to try to drive a wedge in between players and people of authority. So you know, I haven't met a coach yet in West Virginia that doesn't, you know, love his players and want his players to succeed. So, you know, just letting them grow through those real pain points and, you know, life lessons that they're going to learn. You know, a lot can be learned on a baseball diamond. So I know I've taken a lot. I know JT's taken a lot, Chase and Donnie, and Tony, I'm sure you too. You know, it really sets you up for dealing with failure, and baseball is a failing sport. So what better place to do that than, you know, really in high school is just a critical time, I feel. So I like a lot of the coaches in West Virginia. I mean, there's a lot of good coaches, you know, throughout the state of West Virginia, and all the really good ones, you know, have one thing in common, and that's accountability and, you know, demanding the most out of their players.
That's good. That's good. So real quick, Donnie. So JT, can you touch on that? So I know you're on the other side of this, the player development side. Now that, like I said, it's a word that's thrown out there a lot, but I think a lot of the players have to take ownership. But at the same time, when they get to your level, what is player development to you? What are you seeing, and how do you take that in account?
Yeah, so touching upon what Josh said as what's really important for anyone listening, or even if it's just us to understand, you're doing a disservice to your kid or yourself as a player if you're not prepared to fail and be held accountable at the college level. Because at any point in your life, even if it's, you know, your job or at home, if you're not held accountable, you're not going to get any better. You're not going to get to your best self. You're not going to change your best in any way unless somebody holds you accountable, but ultimately it's you. So I think obviously Josh and all of us on this call are like-minded, but that's the biggest takeaway. But from a player development standpoint, well, I mean, I think that's different for every team and organization. I think from our standpoint, it's you know, I came into Salem in December. You know, I can admittedly say I can do things better, but something like I have a whole slew of resources on my computer as to how you can develop the player. And obviously where it starts is the relationship with the person. So where they are trust wise. And then I think the second thing, something that I'm really excited about we're going to do is, so you have to build a relationship with the kid, but then we're going to do mobility screenings to start. So we have about anywhere from 8 to 12 screenings we'll do for the kids. So we'll rate each portion of the mobility 1 through 3. You know, how we're going to execute that at a high level. To obviously it's easy to measure, but I'm not really sure the nuts and bolts and logistics as to how we'll do that with all of our players. But that's something we'll put in. So we'll do a mobility screening, and then we'll see how we can apply that to the player. And then another thing is evaluating. So wherever you come in as a player isn't where you're going to end up. I'm sure everyone just watched that Michael Jordan documentary, and I mean, you've like, you know, he came in and James Worthy whooped him in one-on-one. But I mean, as we all know, Michael Jordan became probably the best basketball player ever lived. I mean, if you look at like pictures of J.J. Watt when he was a senior in high school, I mean, his torso is the size of his arms now. I mean, so the biggest thing is from a player development standpoint, the first part is just understanding that you're either going to get better or worse, and hopefully you're going to get better if you follow our plan. And then, so we, you know, obviously we'll relationship, we'll screen, we'll evaluate, and then make that plan. So you can't execute a plan if you don't have one. So actually, you want me to screen share, Tony?
Yeah.
Will it allow me to? Let's see.
Yeah, it should allow you to do that.
You guys see my screen?
Yep.
You like that background? So here's some examples of like, this is our we have like 3 different stretch routines we do. So day 1, these would be our stretches, and then day 2, day 3, and then they just rotate according to whatever, day, maybe, game weekend, or if it's, practice. And then eventually, obviously, the players will have the autonomy to do this on their own. Like, you just give them the sheet, and then we have early work drills that we do. So I got to see if I can pull those names out. I don't want to. But like day 1, day 2, and day 3, and so like you talked about like development, the player will choose what drills they do. So so like, for example, like if you look at like the dry work, it just depends on whatever they need that day. So I'm going to steal this from Cody Atkinson, and I think he stole it from someone as well. But you don't want to think of development as medicine. You want to think of it as more as vitamin C. So like, what keeps you healthy, what keeps you like your skills strong, what keeps your tools sharp. So the early portion of our development will be, when we go into individuals, will be, okay, this is where you're at. I mean, maybe you're a front side dominant guy, or we need to fix your back foot posture, or maybe your balance is off. Here's a couple drills we can do to get you there. Here's a couple cues we can do. And then we work off of that. So as you guys all know, and I know we've got a couple pitching guys on here, but us hitting guys, they're probably the 2 most dynamic movements in sports. And everyone's different in it. But so to be naive enough to say that everyone moves exactly the same, that everyone is going to do the exact same thing, is ridiculous. So just building that ownership with the player, I think, is the first part. So also show you, if I can get it, is like, so we had talked like this summer, like where we'll be, and then additionally, like our culture. So how we'll set up like our meetings with our culture. So like each day, like what our focuses will be, and like we've as a staff divided what we think topics we should cover, and then the topics we should cover as a team, and then we've taken upon myself to develop like essentially lesson plans as to what those will look like. So yeah, that you asked about development. I hope I answered it as best. Yeah.
Can you go back to that? Go back to the all the drills, or all the things you just had. You were just showing, like lead from third, lead from second. No, it was after that. Wait. It was after that one.
Oh, like the topics. Yeah.
Yeah. Go to topics real quick.
What do you got? You like that? You taking a picture of it?
No, it was this one. Yeah, okay. So I think for players, not just in West Virginia, but throughout the country, anybody who wants to play at the next level,
yeah,
like these are all things that good college programs are going to talk about. Mm-hmm. I mean, in high school, a lot of places you just kind of show up and you stretch and you pick up a ball and you go about your business, and that's really a lot of times that's all they really have time to do, because they get 2 weeks to practice and then it's games and then they're done type of deal. But in college, when that's all you're doing, like this is the stuff that you're going to talk about and that you have to learn.
Yeah.
So, I mean, kids are just a lot of kids just don't understand. They think it's a lot like high school, and most programs, it's not anything like high school, because this is all the stuff you're going to talk about, and it can be overwhelming. But those are the players that separate themselves, are the guys that take all this stuff seriously.
So something that we're going to roll out is, as you guys know, my background is in teaching and specifically special education, is we're going to meet in the classroom every day. So for example, something that, like I said, having the opportunity to talk with some people that are way better and smarter than I am, if you're going to scaffold to every player, it's best for us to explain it as best we can. So then on the field, we can just go play. So like, for example, if you don't know what an octagon walk is, if I have to explain it right before you go up to the plate in an inter squad, that's not really going to benefit you. If you don't know what your routine is at the plate, that's not going to benefit you for me to go over it right before you get it. So every day we'll sit down and we'll deliver, and I can show you our meeting setup.
And what a lot of players don't realize is from pitch to pitch, the mindset and the approach of your, for hitting, as you talk about all the time, JT, is it changes pitch to pitch. If you got a guy on first and, it's a 1-0 pitch and the ball goes to the screen and the guy moves up to second with nobody out, then your approach changes and you want to get that guy to third base. Or if there's a guy on third, my big pet peeve is guy on third less than 2 outs.
It's not your big pet peeve.
Why are you taking fastball down the middle first pitch? I
think it might be everyone on here's pet peeve.
Well, nothing gets my blood pressure going more than that. So that's just
Well, Josh, you said something great that I want to touch on before we get too far down and get some input from Chase. As a coach that's had experience at multiple levels, what is it that, we can do as we come out of this, right? I think we're all sort of on hold right now with everything, but what is it that we can do as someone who coaches a lot of youth, has connections with the high school coaches? What can we do as coaches? And then in facilities, what do you guys need from us, from the coaches, from the facilities, and from the baseball community to help sort of pull us out of this? And I wanted to hear, Chase, you're the definition of player development, right? You took it upon yourself to have a plan, find the people that you needed in your life to execute that plan, and then you went and did it. So if anybody, you can look back and say, this is what I needed. This is what helped me along the way. What is it that you can connect and then bridge in, with Coach, with JT and Josh of what you need from us as coaches, with Tony, with the facilities, and the baseball community as a whole. With Chase, looking back, what is it that in situations could have helped you more with those topics that can maybe help us pull out of this quarantine?
I think JT touched on it earlier. A big thing that for me as a young player in college, all the way up through now, just like anybody in any situation, if you want to succeed, if you have someone that cares about you and cares about your well-being and wants you to succeed, it's much easier to succeed. If you have someone that's just constantly beating you down on you, telling you that you're bad at something, you can't do this, you're eventually going to think that about yourself. So it's just main thing about a player with player development on like my side as a player is just making sure that I only allow people in my corner that I truly believe care about me. Because if not, they're not doing you any detriment. You have to work twice as hard to kind of get their negativity out of your life than it is if you just have someone bringing positivity in for you.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to write that down. I like that.
Right. Yes. I think you saw all of us when, that's it. Right. Right. And that's as a coach, I know we're all in this for a reason, and I'll put everything I have behind everybody on this call. I know puts everything they have into making things better. And we all, as you tell that story, I know I did, and I can guarantee everybody else that thought of that. One, maybe two coaches that kept them in. I had a coach that I quit baseball when I was 11 years old, and I had a coach that just loved me, cared about me through everything, and asked me to come back and play. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be playing, plus numerous other coaches that have impacted me. So I know as a coach, that's always a great reminder to hear that, even through all the baseball stuff, what matters most is we show them that we care. Yeah. So, that's a really big thing that I know I'll take away as a coach, and is always a welcome reminder that that's why we're here. So,
yeah. And I'm going to piggyback on that. I'm going to go right back to JT, one of his mentors and one of mine as well is Cody.
Yes, say it right. So
okay. Yeah. So anyway, he's with the Rangers right now, but guy is really good. And I think what he is really strong at is having that connection with people. And he talked about having that personal connection is what makes him the coach that he is, So right when you said, Donnie, you had that coach bring you back. I think those are really important things is that connection, that personal connection you have with those players, that they buy in to what the coach is talking about. So that's all I wanted to say. Sorry, Cody.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to mention, and I mean, Chase probably saw me write this down, is there's a difference. And he said like someone in your corner, which I think is really important. I mean, if you think of like Donnie's a big fight guy, or if you really see any sport, if you're in somebody's corner, like as Josh had mentioned, you're going to hold them accountable, whether they like it or not. And I was actually talking to another coach who's, he's a little younger than me, and somebody asked him the question, how do you hold, a similar situation I was in at West Virginia? I mean, and Chase can probably attest to this. I had a really weird position, and I wasn't a player, and I wasn't really a staff member, but I was in that. So it's like, how do you bridge that gap? But the biggest thing is, there's difference between holding someone accountable and being a jerk, and also if you let things slide, you're really not in their corner. So if like Chase was like, I don't want to lift for 2 weeks, and I don't want to hit for 2 weeks. If I'm in his corner, I'm going to say, hey, you need to go do that. And I'm going to go with you because I think something that's really important is if you, like Donnie had mentioned, I think everyone, if you care about somebody, you're going to do the things that are really tough. And I think that's something that, everyone can be better with. And I think you'd be stupid to say you can't be better with it. But I think as, the relationships grow stronger. I mean, if I like sat Chase aside and told him, had a very serious conversation with him, or he did with me or with Donnie or Josh, I mean, they would listen because they know I care about them. So you have to make that relationship, but then also it's like, so for example, if I didn't know somebody, I said, hey, you're not doing this right, they're probably not going to believe it. But if they know I care for them, they will. But I had to get that in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it always comes back to, we do it because we care. That's like I said, all the baseball stuff is great for us. It's a lot cheaper than therapy, but it's great to be around people you care about and do all that stuff. So that's great. Like I said, the message of coaches and everybody, it comes back to just, show them you care and find ways to connect with them through all this and make sure they know that we're there for them through this crazy situation. And I know we can't wait to get out there on the end of it and help them, get to the next level. So is there anything you guys have seen that, from, like I said, from the facilities perspective, that as we get back, I know we'll probably have some protocols that limit how many people can, gather at a time, so whole team practices may be tough, but, is there something that you'll see that facilities can offer or youth coaches can offer that are going to help you guys come out of this stronger than if they didn't do it with this quarantine?
I'll go. I mean, I know something that I've been in a lot of facilities and been around a lot of practices. I think something that just being on the other side of this is be prepared and, more proactive with making your lessons and your practices challenging. I think something on the other side of this, if you're spending this time correctly, you've learned a lot of different resources and a lot of different drills and a lot of different what you can do to coach your players or your kids or your son or daughter. I mean, really at any level. But I think the biggest thing that we need to start doing as we get on the other side of this is how we're going to execute it and why we're doing it. So for example, a struggle that I had, going into my first year as a, head assistant was if you're going to hit, at a high level, you need to practice at a high level. If you're going to pitch at a high level, if you're going to run at a high level, you need to run fast, right? If you're going to, you need to do anything. So you need to practice harder than you do in a game. So something that I think what's going to, on the other side of this is when it's going to separate facilities if they're going to make things challenging for their players when they get back. So I actually was talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about putting a machine on sliders. It was actually Doug Latta who, if you know anything about hitting, go listen to that guy. But he was talking about, he puts a slider machine on 98 when he works with high school kids. And as you can imagine, a slider at 98, no one throws that. But so it's really hard to hit. And what he had said was, if you're going to be rattled by a machine, what are you going to do when you step in the box against someone who's trying to get you out? What are you going to, if you're rattled by your coach who's there to make you better, how are you going to be with me when we're down 5 in the 9th? So I think on the other side of it, as you guys know, I've worked in facilities, and I do a lot of youth camps, and the other side of it is, are you going to be willing to put the work in now to make it more challenging for them when they get back? Because everyone's going to be a little bit unhappy. Not at their best. So it's going to be interesting. So.
Yeah. So what do you say to that, Josh? What do you think from a facility standpoint you're looking for, or what can help the kids in the community?
Well, I think that, kind of echo what JT was saying there is, make things challenging for the players. I mean, everyone, Coach Heenan he would always say, we're not taking feel good BP here. It's, anyone can hit, bell high, half speed fastballs, but if you're throwing BP and you care about the kids, then you should be trying to effectively trying to get them out, because whenever you're in a competitive situation, maybe not to start, but whenever you get going, kids take feel good BP all the time, and then they get in the game, and it's like, especially what I saw in the fall with the Aces was, kids would hit, during the week, with their teammates or with their friends, and then it gets to the weekend, and it's like, you're seeing 90, 94, 95 from UC. The guy's throwing a exploding slider, and you're not ready for it. And a lot of kids, another thing I would say is from a hitting standpoint is just really work on approaches, and kids that you hear Coach Mazey, if you've ever been to one of his camps and sat near the backstop with him, one of the big things he says is, we don't offer scholarships to guys that take pitches. So while you should be ready to hit whenever you get in the box, that's what you use. And Coach Heenan does a great job at Salem. They have a whole plan to get you ready for your at bat, and just talking about being ready to hit from a hitting standpoint, and not going in there and the first pitch you get might be the best pitch of the at bat. So why wouldn't you be ready to hit it? I guess there's a stigma of, we never want to swing at the first pitch for some reason, but that might be the best pitch you get. So you got to be ready to hit it. I would just say, from an approach, from a facility like yours, Tony, you guys do a lot of hitting, is just work on, approach and, really learning to be ready to hit, every at bat. Especially when you get to the high school level and you play competitively, every at bat is an interview. These guys that play in the fall, that play these college teams, and they're playing these colleges, and college coaches sitting in the other dugout watching their every move. Well, every at bat is an interview. If you've got a good approach and you're ready to hit and you're hitting the ball hard, Coach Heenan, he's gonna circle your name, because you got an idea of what's going on. You're probably somebody that he wants to look at. So, mental side of hitting and approach is what I'd say would be the biggest help coming out of this.
Yeah, that's really huge. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's really huge. Every at bat is an interview. I mean, you can't say that. You can't say that any better. So, I know we're on a time frame here, and we have 8 minutes left. So, basically, what I want to do is try to go around the table here between JT, Chase, and Josh, and any parting words you can give us to the people that are listening and watching, that we can take and maybe even take a couple of notes from your parting words. So we'll start with Chase. Give us a parting word that you'd want folks to know that are out there listening.
Biggest thing is, there's always, I can't remember if Josh or Donnie said earlier, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So, I mean, as bad as things might seem right now, it's going to end eventually. Things are going to get better. They might get worse before they get better, but as long as you do what you need to do what your authority figures tell you to do, whether it's the government or your parents if you're a young guy, or your boss if you're an employee working from home, if you just take care of what you need to take care of, then when all this is over, you're going to be all right to go.
JT?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to show that what Josh was talking about, because I think this would be pretty helpful. So this is kind of how we set up our dugout. We have a sim bat area where guys can time pitches, where if you're in that area, no one's allowed to talk to you. You have a bucket that if you sit on it, visualization bucket, no one's allowed to talk to you there. You're there to track pitches. We have a reset bucket, which works for some guys, doesn't work for others, but it's a resource if they're sitting there. They need to, literally hit the reset button and relax. And then we have explained what in each section you're supposed to do prior to getting into the box. And then we have all of our approaches explained. And then, and again, it's taking ownership of those things. And then, as I said, explained, we have all of those here. And then we even, I'm pretty particular, we even have this is the dialogue we use in the dugout as well.
Okay.
But I would say, for my parting words for this whole scenario would just be, don't stop learning. I think that's something that, you can develop wherever you are. And this, I think some of the, you guys have all received my messages because I text you about every morning, but I think like Walden was written in isolation. Walt Disney came up with Mickey Mouse in isolation. I think Rocky IV, Stallone, he got jacked by himself in a barn. So if you can't take this time to be a better person and reach out to somebody, tell them you care about them, or list the things you're grateful for, I think you're not getting any better. So just take this time to, change your best as you will.
Good stuff. Josh, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, kind of echo what JT said is, use your resources from, I'm more than willing to help kids, reach out to me through Twitter. My phone number isn't hard to find. I'm usually really good at getting right back to people if I don't answer them right away. Some people give me flack for that, but I'm, especially my fiance, she gets mad whenever my phone goes off. I'm always, usually right there to answer it. So I'm willing to help. I know Coach Heenan, all the guys on this call are really, willing and want to help. So, don't be afraid to ask. Take ownership of your process and, be ready to go when this clears, because it's going to be pedal to the metal, at some point. So be ready to go and utilize your resources, and people are out there to help you. So reach out and ask for help.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Some good stuff, guys, man. We really appreciate having you on. I know I've taken a lot from it. This was all stem from, like JT mentioned, us just wanting to keep learning, and that's what we want to do, is keep learning, keep seeing how we can get better as coaches, as people, and do all those things that we need to do and take advantage of this time to get better. So I know all the information you guys shared today is unbelievable. It's definitely going to help some people get better. It's going to help coaches, facilities. And I know all of us probably have a page of notes that we could go on and make 10 other episodes, about just certain things. So really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing the information that you did and letting us pick your brain for a few minutes.
Thanks for having us, Donnie.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you for having me.
Yeah, guys. This has been great, man. And like Donnie said, we're all learners. So anytime we can get on a call with a bunch of guys that have some good information and have the same common denominators, it makes the call so much easier, and we all respect each other. So I think that's one of the things I think we also take away from this is, if we respect, learn and challenge, those things can be taken to any level, whether it's your job or your game or anything in life, as you're a husband or a wife, all those things. You challenge yourself, you learn, and we'll all be better for that. So like Donnie said, I appreciate you guys jumping on this call. I know I will be calling on you guys or leaning on you guys for some kind of information, and I'll probably have you invite you to come back because this is something that Donnie and I are going to continue to do. So we call this the Mound Visit, and we're excited to continue this. And this was a great call to start our first episode was with you guys. So thank you. God bless you, and have a great evening.